Hello everyone, and welcome to the CSS Level 1 section of the course. We've now completed HTML, both sections, and it's time to move on to learning about CSS. And the CSS will have two sections to it, Level 1 and Level 2. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets, and CSS really describes how HTML elements are displayed on the page. And we're just going to take this lecture to describe what CSS is and show you some examples of its true power. So styling can affect many things such as color, font, size, borders, and many more properties of HTML. So far we've only been able to create basic HTML documents. While they may have some content and a little bit of functionality, they've basically all looked the same. And when you're actually on the web, you want things to look nice. And usually you define styling outside of the HTML file. You create a separate CSS file and then link that to the HTML file. We're going to show later on some examples that you can actually define styling within the HTML document itself, but it's a much more common and better practice to separate your styling into a CSS file and then link it to the HTML file in the head of that HTML file document. And that's where we're going to be discussing that metadata. Okay, let's show a quick example of just how powerful CSS can be by exploring the same HTML code but with different CSS linked to it. I'm going to go to this link right here. You can find it just by Googling W3 Schools CSS. And there's actually lots of websites that show similar examples of this. So you can just Google search CSS demos and you'll find lots of websites like this. I'm going to open my browser and jump to this link. Okay, here I am at my browser and I've come to the w3schools.com website that has CSS introduction. And you'll notice here on the left-hand panel is actually a really nice reference to a bunch of CSS topics such as outlines, text, fonts, etc. We're going to be covering a lot of these, but throughout the course, if you feel like you need more of a reference, you can just visit w3schools.com and hit on CSS. Another website I want to mention that I like probably a little better than W3 Schools is the Mozilla Developer Network. They also have a ton of information about Cascading Style Sheets or CSS. They have a tutorials, introduction, reference, and as you become more of a developer, as you've already learned the tools, you'll probably be using the reference more than the tutorials and introduction sections. So just keep that in mind. These are two really great links for you to check out in case you want to dive deeper into some of the stuff we talk about during this course. But I just want to show you the CSS introduction page, which actually has kind of a fun demo so you can see one HTML page with multiple styles. And you'll notice if you scroll down here, it says, "Welcome to my home page." And this is HTML that's linked to CSS. And you'll notice we see that we have like this green header bar, we have some different fonts, etc., a little sidebar, but we also have these links to different style sheets. And if I click on one of these links to style sheet number 2, for instance, you'll notice the website completely changes. But the fun fact to know here is that this is actually the exact same HTML code. The only thing that's changing is the CSS file that it's linked to. So all the changes you see here when you hit on these style sheets is just pure CSS. None of the HTML is changing, none of the content is changing, just the CSS is changing itself. And now you can really see, let me click on style sheet 4 here, just how powerful CSS is. It can make your website look completely different using the same content. And if we click here on no style sheet, this is what we've been working with, just pure HTML. So it's the same page, just different style sheets. So this is no style sheet, and you can see as we play around with these, you can get a vastly different looking website with all these style sheets. And after these two CSS Level 1 and Level 2 sections, we're going to be learning about Bootstrap, which helps streamline a lot of this process and take care of a lot of the work for you. But before we hit Bootstrap, we really should understand CSS itself. That way, if we ever need to customize anything, we can do that before we just jump straight into Bootstrap. Okay, so let's continue on and start learning about the basics of CSS. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you in the next lecture.